Hello, my friend. This is Arrogant Aaron, and I'm doing my next episode on This is Rural Korea. In this episode, I'd like to explain what are the administrative divisions and what separates rural Korea from a city and what separates it from the general term of countryside. So first, I'm going to do a little bit of snobbery and separate the term countryside and rural. Many people use the term countryside as a catch-all term to essentially note any region in Korea that is not like a city and has farms. And those places exist, but some of what is labeled the countryside is actually quite close to a city, and it might even be in an administrative division known as a city. And of course, those places have their own characteristics, but it is much different than rural South Korea. Because to be distinguished as a rural location, you're generally, because of how the definitions work, much further in distance from a city, which creates its own unique challenges that kind of separate you from the development that you see happening in larger cities in South Korea. So without further ado, I want to explain the divisions. Now, if you're living in Korea, the first major division are the provinces. And in every province, virtually, you will have a basket of cities and counties, etc. So where you are as a province doesn't really necessarily mean that you're going to be necessarily living in a rural location or a metropolitan location. It just is the province you're living in. So the next level is what begins to distinguish you. And you have cities and you have counties. So cities have the name Shi, right? So you have Seoul-shi, Busan-shi, right? And that's a city. The general definition of a city, and there's a few outliers, but generally is a consolidated population of 500,000 or more. And that makes you a city. And this video series will not be talking about those because this is rural Korea. So rural Korea begins with counties. So a county would be an area that most likely would have a population of less than 500,000 and be relatively spread out so that there's no single population hub that would, push multiples of hundreds of thousands that would actually then separate itself from the county and then be a city and no longer a county. So I live in Hapcheon County. Hapcheon County has a population of about 60,000, and we have a population density approximately that's quite spread out. So now that you have a county, you're really split into two more divisions. You have towns and you have townships. So the towns are called ups, and the townships are called myans. All right, and by the way, counties are called guns. So I live in Hapcheon-gun. I live in Hapcheon County, but I also live in Hapcheon-up. So Hapcheon-up is a town. A town is larger than a township. So in Hapcheon County, we have one up and we have 15 myans. Okay? So in Hapcheon County, I am in one of the more population dense areas, and I call us, we are the capital of the county. We are the largest population center. We have the biggest market, and we have the most government jobs in our area. And in fact, because we are one up and we have all these myans around us, all these townships, what happens is that a lot of services get centralized here, and the workforce is actually housed, or well, they choose to be housed here because it's easier, and then they commute out to all the myungs. And that includes public officers, health service workers, and also even public English teachers. In our I think of the approximately 12-ish, it changes from time to time, of the approximately 12-ish public foreign English teachers, there are all but one, I believe now, is actually housed in Hapcheon-up, the town. And what they do is they commute to all the myungs around this area because it's my guess is it's out of kindness to those teachers, because living in a myung as a foreigner would probably be quite hard. So that's the first observation I want to make in these administrative divisions is I live in a up. I probably would never live in a myung. And the reason why is there's probably just not enough employment opportunity or money or business for your typical Western foreigner to live in a myung. Because, and here's the definitional part, a town has a population center above 6,000. And a myung has a population center of below 6,000. And to be frank, a lot of myungs have populations much less than 6,000. Some of them have populations of less than 1,000, maybe less than 500. Some of them are very small. So in my Hapcheon-up, we have a population of approximately 12,000. So about 12,000 people. We have like 1.5 elementary schools. We have one elementary school that's the main one, and then there's a small one that exists for different town political reasons, but won't get into that. We have 2 middle schools, but it's just because it's a boys and a girls. You know, anywhere else it would probably be just one middle school, but this town has a history of separating the genders, so they do that. And then we have 2 high schools, that boys high school, girls high school, and relatively small town because of that. And so I live in a up, and and that's about, I think, as small of a town. It is the most rural you could get, and you're going to run into Western foreigners. In fact, I am only one of 2 Western foreigners that live here on a somewhat permanent basis in this town. And I think, I don't have a history book, but probably in this town's history, only one of 2 Western foreigners, and the other Western foreigner will be leaving at some point. So there's not a lot of population because there's not a lot of population, which means there's just not enough job opportunities for your typical Western foreigner to open a business or anything else. And in these towns, there is a lot of competition because there's not a lot of jobs. So your main choice is to open up a business. Well, I'm getting further along than I wanted to on this video because I wanted to focus on the administrative division. So we have Hapcheon County, Hapcheon Town, and then there's one smaller division called ArAa, which translates to village. And I'm also in Hapcheon Village. So I'm in Hapcheon County, Hapcheon Town, Hapcheon Village. Now, usually an area that I live in, we would not call ourselves a village. It's mostly just a postal thing. But the reason I am in a Hapcheon village is because my town has a few communities outside of the centralized population hub that are called village. So kind of, if you call them a village, you have to call us a village, because then there's equality in the terminology to separate our area of Hapcheon County and their area of Hapcheon County. So again, I am in like the capital area of Hapcheon County, Hapcheon Town, Hapcheon Village. And so I'm right at the heart of Hapcheon, and which makes me close to all of the centralized services that are in Hapcheon. So there you go. What I've done in this episode is I've tried to explain what separates cities from counties and what separates rural versus just a countryside community that might just be on the outskirts of a city, but actually still part of that city and still part of that transportation system. So generally, I would consider rural Korea to be the ups and the myans, the towns and the townships that are in the counties of South Korea. So this is Arrogant Aaron, and I hope I've properly explained to you how they administratively divide Korean populations and governments.